What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is John and Kevin's Big Stupid Podcast. I'm Kevin.
And I'm John.
And ladies and gentlemen, today we have a full house.
A full house. I can totally see that. This time I know we have people in the house. And I have a clue of what's going on.
Normally, John has no idea what's happening, but now today you're on track, right?
I'm totally on track. I'm ready to go.
All right.
Because
well,
I had to run around my house. Oh,
go ahead.
No, I said I had to run around my house shutting everything off. I have 8 computers going. I have iPads going. I got phones going. So I had to shut it all off to get ready for this. So I was totally prepared to know what was going on today.
It seems like you're still lagging a little bit, but let's hope it gets better by the end of the thing.
It ain't.
But ladies and gentlemen, there is a brand new movie that is streaming right now. I believe it's on Amazon Prime. All right. And the new movie, it's a horror flick called Dreamcatcher.
Dreamcatchers.
Yes. And we have one of the stars of the movie, Elizabeth Posey. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me here. I'm super excited.
We have the producers of the film, brother and sister, Crystal and Brandon Veda. So give it up.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. And we have the writer and the director of the film, Jacob Johnston. Give it up for Jacob.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks
Welcome, everybody, to the show. I just want to start off, just tell us about the film, whoever wants to kick that off.
Jacob, get in there, man.
So Dreamcatcher is a bit of a couple things. It's a love letter to the 90s ensemble horror films of Robert Rodriguez, Wes Craven, Jamie Blanks, these people who really kind of set the bar and changed the way we look at slashers, the way that the 80s did it, and they evolved in the 90s, and trying to reintroduce some of those elements with also a little bit of a nod to Giallo, the 70s Italian films. Suspiria, Tenebrae, these films that really used color and character in a really meaningful, exciting way. So it's a little bit of blending both of those worlds, and the story follows 2 sisters who are a bit estranged, and they come together with their friends at this underground music festival. And while there, some bad stuff goes down with fueled by drugs, we'll say. And then the rest of the film is following the aftermath of this tragic event at the festival, which also happens to include a masked killer element.
Yeah, so that's the first thing I got when I first started watching it, like the whole 90s. Like you said, how it switched from like the 80s slashers to like the 90s, version of it. I really got a Scream feel from it.
Yes.
From a different point of view.
Absolutely. And it's I think with what we see in the horror genre is just these kind of recycled trends, like when we're looking at narrative structure and we're looking at kind of the way that these stories are being told, the 80s resurfaced in the late 2000s, mid 2000s, 90s is slowly kind of coming back in. The way that we can prey on people's nostalgia, I think, is, in a way that doesn't feel like a gimmick, because I think the minute it begins to feel like, oh, you're just doing pure fan service, it can take you out of the film completely. So it's finding the line to make sure you can align with certain fans, but also try to find a way to reintroduce modern audiences who might not have seen those films.
See, I didn't get that feel from it. I didn't get the feel that it was like a fan service thing. I totally felt it was like a genuine, film, definitely on its own. Like there wasn't a lot of stuff just thrown into there, because of the 90s and stuff like that. I really felt it was, kind of like a different approach, to, what a slasher film is going to be.
Yeah, I was, as I was watching it, I got the feel of I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream as well. And yeah, as I'm watching it, it wasn't like, oh, they're just redoing, oh, I've seen this before. It was okay. I can see the influence, and it definitely did not take me out of the film. I really enjoyed it.
What was your favorite characters in the movie and why?
Favorite characters?
Yeah, characters, 2 characters each.
Okay.
And why?
2 characters each.
And why?
Yes. Here's a quiz. Here's a pop quiz.
All right. Well.
All right. Do you want to go first? You go first.
Unfortunately, one of the characters that I enjoyed is not here. He was supposed to be here. The character of Brecken, okay, who was played by
Emrys.
Emrys. But I really liked Brecken. I don't know if I spoil anything by talking about who he is or anything like that, but I enjoyed, and I was going to bring this up a little later on. Brecken is gay, and he's hit on by another guy at the club, and he basically tells the guy to go fuck off. And I was really happy about that. You know, not that I have anything against guy on guy, because I'll watch anything, but but what I was saying is that a lot of times, especially lately, homosexual men seem to be portrayed as very promiscuous and like will just jump in and out of bed like it doesn't matter. And the fact that he was like, no, I have higher standards than you, like, you know, I really enjoyed that.
Good point.
Yeah.
I like that. Thanks,
It's a
Kevin.
beautiful take. I think
Yeah.
that you're not off the mark with saying that sometimes they can be portrayed in a certain way that's, I don't know, taboo, or like they have to be hypersexualized all the time, and that doesn't have to be the nature of their relationship. I like that. That's a good take. I haven't heard anybody really say that about his character, and I think he would be glad to hear what you just said. Yeah.
I agree. I think it is true. It's also like, it's so easy when you have certain elements where it's like you could quickly turn a character into a caricature.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we can normalize any kind of diversification in a character setting where it's like they don't have to be what we maybe have a preconceived notion to being, I think is a really exciting, you know, thing to do, and where I hope more cinema is going, where, you know, you don't just end up with caricatures of archetypes.
And it's funny you say that, because that's how Brecken tore this guy down. He was just like, he's like, you're the typical, like, you know, he's like, I don't have to be that, you know.
So that spoke to you, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah.
And John, what about you? What was your favorite character?
I'm gonna have to say one of my favorite characters, and I'm terrible with names. It's a thing that's always bothered me. It's the guy from the Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Jake.
He was Jake.
Yeah, Jake.
Yeah. Jake. I actually loved it because, like, I remember watching all those things with my kids. I have 2 kids. One's 13. One's 11. And I remember watching it, and I was like, "Oh, the Wimpy Kid out there!" And all of a sudden, like, I found out that like he was in it, and I'm like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "Wow, this is like a big deal." And then he got jacked and everything too, so I'm like, "Oh, he's even jacked too." I'm like, "This is great," you know. So it was like yeah, he had the cut off sleeves, and I was like, "Yes, he's good." Like this character, I really thought like, you know, he kind of, you know, tried to keep it together. He didn't want to go to the thing. You know, they probably should have listened to him. Obviously, it was good. I think the whole like past of what I remember of him really like kind of like sucked me into the character, and I, you know, was just kind of like waiting for him. You know, how like, you know, he didn't want to be there, and then all, you know, he tried to keep it together for the most part, but then like, you know, so that was my first favorite character.
My second favorite character, all right, is, and I'm not just saying this just because she's here, all right, but it was Ivy, because
Let's give it up for Ivy.
she kicked ass. Yes, and I really like that in two different ways, because normally you have a slasher film like this with the killer with the mask, and it's just, he's just abominable and will not stop, and you know, and she like gives him a couple of punches and kicks and whatever, and he gets knocked out, you know, and she knocks him on his ass, and I like that. It makes the killer humanizes them, which makes it more believable, you know, but it also raises the character, by saying she's tough. It's hard to kill her. Okay. So there was that, plus female kicking ass. Like we need more of that. I know a lot today. It seems like, sometimes it might be like shoehorned and like done almost overdone, but I feel like the character was perfect in strong female lead.
And that's all like Elizabeth went through hell for that role. Like, I mean, you should have seen the bruises on her legs and her hips, and like she was so adamant. I have to give so much props to her that she was so invested in being, it's not even about being a survivor, it's just being a thriver. She's got to do this stuff and she's gonna kick ass and it's gonna look effortless. But yeah, she went through the ringer on that. I'm sure you remember those massive bruises, Elizabeth.
So Elizabeth,
Oh man.
did you have to train for that? Well, like how did you prepare for that particular?
So, I mean, I knew the day was coming. I had never, done a fight scene like that in a film before. So I was really excited about it. And it's funny, like Jake was saying, with the bruises all over my body, they kept being like, Elizabeth, you don't actually have to throw yourself to the floor. And I'd be like, no, like I'm going to I wanted it to be as authentic as possible. And I walked away black and blue, but it was a blast. I prepared for it. But I did have a great partner to work with on set. His name is Ryan. What's Ryan's last name?
Powers.
Ryan Powers. He was excellent to work with. And so, when you see people getting shoved up against the wall or thrown to the floor, they give you all the tactics and the ways to do that so that you keep yourself safe. But there was a part of me that was really just kind of throwing my own self around. And it was so much fun. It was probably the most fun I had in the entirety of working on that film. I walked away from it thinking, man, maybe I should just be a stunt girl, because it was a blast. And I felt powerful. I mean, I know it's scripted and it's not exactly real, but there's a feeling of power when you get to complete a scene like that. It was a lot of fun.
The fact that you got through it, and not only got through it but looked good doing it, that should make you proud right there. That that should give you power right there.
Yeah, I want to flip the script. I don't want to, you see the blonde girl at the beginning of a horror and you're like, oh, she's gonna die in like 5 seconds, going screaming into the woods like some idiot. And Ivy got to change that dynamic, I think. So hopefully other people don't always think the blonde's gonna
that's the first. Sorry, that's the first thing I thought. I'm like, oh, she ain't gonna make it.
She's out of here. She's out of here.
I'm happy you.
To add to what Elizabeth was saying from a producer standpoint, we were working with Jacob, and the night before we went into callbacks, if you really want to take it there. And actually, we'll take it one more further. When I first read the script, there was a certain roles that we were talking about, challenges on how this is going to come together from a casting point of view. And Ivy always stood out. My sister and I quickly talked about a handful of characters. We're like, wow, this is a really strong character. And this also provides an opportunity, because of the landscape of the other characters within the project or within the screenplay, that you could really discover somebody right here who's working, because there's so many dynamics to the character to keep it going. Like you saw the fight scenes and the physicality. So Elizabeth Posey brought a multi-dimensional capabilities that Jacob was able to recognize that with us in the casting process. And that was something that we really looked heavily into. Like, can she carry this role? You saw the action. Ivy's, it has to work, so we felt that she brought that. And so, Jacob, if you want to add to that.
Elizabeth Posey's very talented.
Well, I'll jump in. I'll jump in because
I am a fan.
Being a strong female myself, you read these scripts, and being originally from in front of the camera, I read thousands of scripts, and I'm sure you guys all have as well. By you guys, I mean you guys. When you read a good script and you see these characters, you just have this vision of what something should be. And Brandon and I and Jacob, he knows the way we think. We're a total team at this point. But Ivy really did come off the page, and it was something that was so ready for somebody to come in the room and be like, you know what, I'm gonna win the role. And that was Elizabeth Posey. She came in, I'll always say, when she had me personally at, like, her boots were like, she walked in with a purpose. And then the minute she said her name with her husky voice, I was like, mind you, I have short attention span and ADD, so it's really hard to get my attention. Her voice, though, I was like, okay, you know, she commands your attention in a very effortless, easy way. And when I, as a producer, look at somebody who is going to lead a film, I look at everything that Elizabeth Posey has naturally.
Wow, can we do podcasts like at the beginning of every
this
week?
Is the big stupid Elizabeth Posey is an amazing actress podcast.
Okay, now Jacob's gonna come in.
Now Jacob
So anyway, let me just tell you guys about Elizabeth Posey. I don't know if you guys have seen her in the film.
Do you guys know who Elizabeth Posey is? Have you
I hear she's great. I hear she's great, but I also think it's fun, you know, in just a more broad sense, to just kind of bring it away from, you know, self-indulgence here, which is just the idea of the final girl, and not to, you know, obviously I don't want to spoil anything for any listener that hasn't seen the film, but I think it's really interesting to explore the dynamics of what defines what we know to be what we would say the final girl. And I think adversely to what you guys were talking about earlier, where it's like when you see a blonde come on screen in the beginning and maybe she's maybe a little meek or maybe she's a little awkward, it's like, oh, she's the final girl. And I think the fun of a movie, a slasher type film, is to challenge the audience's notion on what we as a culture have become accustomed to the final girl being. Oh, yeah. she's got to be weak, and she has to find some sort of, like, it's like saying weakness is somehow debilitating. And I think that it's fun, you know, in a modern setting, to say that you can use trauma as a catalyst to really drive. And I think that's what Ivy does through the film, is use her trauma and use her history to actually drive her to new heights, instead of having to be just like a victim of tragedy. And I think it's fun to be able to explore those dynamics, you know, in a film, like a genre film like this.
Elizabeth, I wanted to ask you, was there anybody that you, anybody in your life, or anybody that you admire, or anybody that you pulled from to portray Ivy?
Whew. You know, I would say, gosh, there's a multitude of people. Maybe this is such a cliche answer, but my mom has always been such like an absolute badass woman. She's teeny tiny little blonde, 90 pounds soaking wet. And but she went through a lot of strife growing up. She grew up in Chicago. It wasn't easy. Her family had nothing and no one. She took care of herself. And she's powerful, but you wouldn't necessarily see it when you looked at her. And she derives that power from intelligence and maybe having a little bit of a broken upbringing, and you would never know. But she's obviously, everybody looks up to their mom, but I got to have a strong, powerful woman raise me. And it wasn't because she always had it easy. So I think it's those people who have had some of the more difficult moments in life that end up being the one who makes it to the end. So yeah, maybe that's cliche, but I love you, Mom, if you're listening. Yeah, I've had a lot of strong women in my life too. I'm one of 3 girls. So I've had a lot of strong, smart, beautiful women to look up to. So I'm lucky.
Nice. Jacob, I wanted to ask you, did you feel it was important to write characters that had issues with mental health, like Jake, Pierce, and Ivy? They all had something that they were dealing with and trying to get through. And like you said, with Ivy, it makes her stronger. That's what drives her and pulls her through.
Absolutely. I think, obviously, I mean, it goes without saying that there's a huge mental health crisis in this country. And there's such a stigma, I think, to what people perceive mental health to be, that if you're not to the 4th degree or the 10th degree, or you're not, then you're not. The idea of what mental health represents is vast. And I think if we can find a way to introduce characters who have some sort of thing they're dealing with, but it doesn't debilitate them from also their humanity, it's important to see those sides. Because I think it's so easy for us to say, I'm so mentally sound and this person is crazy, and just throw a label onto somebody, or throw, oh, they're depressed, or, oh, they're dealing. And it suddenly, like, somehow, again, like we were talking about earlier with trauma, it somehow makes them on a lower, totem pole than you. And it's like, that's not true. Like, if we start having conversations and normalizing that mental health is manageable, and it's we should have conversations, and you can have both sides of it. You can be what appears to be mentally sound and also very broken. And I think that those are the most compelling, because there's a lot of us that are like that. There's a lot of us that are straddling both sides, that they're trying to put on this facade every single day and be okay. And maybe some days they are okay, and then other days they're not, and that's okay. And I think that if we can have that conversation, and we can see characters in a movie, even on these heightened realities where there's a killer and there's drugs and there's all these high stakes, and it's like, yeah, but when you distill it down, these are just people who are trying to be people and live in a world where they're being judged constantly. They're having to put on face, and what are those relationships? How does that actually strain their relationships? How can they strengthen their relationships? So yeah, I think it was very important to see people, and hopefully a light where the audience watching it could say, oh, I know that person, or that person is me, or that person is my sister, or that person is my friend. And if you can create any kind of connection like that, you've got your audience, to some degree, because then they're on for the ride. They don't think that you're trying to give them some ham-fisted, preachy message. They're just going to ride the wave with you and say, like, there is an authenticity to this. Maybe it's not real life, but it's real enough where I feel like I'm connected to it. So I do believe it's super important, not just to spread, social commentary, but also in just the connection with the audience that's watching the film.
No, I was just going to say, and to add to that, my character struggled with body dysmorphia, which is actually something I struggle with myself. And I think it's a lot of young women in our world now are struggling with it more and more every day, based off of Photoshop and altering yourself, and the constant need to be perfect, and the fact that you go on Instagram and everybody's lives are completely tailored to make them look a certain way, and that their bodies are a certain way, their faces are a certain way. Nobody looks like that. And it's something I've been struggling with since I was probably 10 years old. So to have a character like that that's openly dealing with body dysmorphia, I think is important to a lot of young women out there.
It's interesting, Jacob, that you brought this up, because we've had on the show a couple of times the series The Shift, who are dealing with mental health with young people and trying to change the conversation, because it is, like you said, there is a stigma about, you have some kind of problem, you have mental health issues, you have, schizophrenia, or whatever it is. And they're trying to change that ideas to get young people to talk about it. And how you touched on it, Jacob, and Elizabeth, how you said about Facebook and how you're portrayed to everybody else. Today, more than ever before in the world, it's just that everybody is out there. Everybody is on display. And it's funny because I'm watching this movie and I really felt old watching this movie, because I'm watching these young people and, on the phone, and they're all just gorgeous. And, and I'm like, I don't relate to these people at all. And not in a negative way. I'm just like, I'm just too fucking old. And I'm like, that, that's just
like, if we went to a rave We'd be like not for like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Nothing.
we'd be in
No,
traction.
whatever.
There's no way we could handle a rave.
But I think there's something, and maybe you guys could speak to that. But there's something aspirational about something. I feel like one of the reasons you want to set a setting like that is for people with that exact mindset, which is like, I don't want to go to Coachella because I don't want to be on my ass for 2 weeks, and I don't want to do copious amounts of drugs or whatever. Like, but I can watch this movie and experience it almost like vicariously through these people. So it's like, I can laugh at the fact that it's like, yeah, I can't do that. But like, it's great that these gorgeous people who, live a really nice life can.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something perhaps to that, to speak to the point of like, I can't relate because I also, I'm 32 and I don't think I could survive that myself.
Now, speaking of, I'm going to say 90%, 95% of the movie is taking place at a rave. How important was the music and the soundtrack to this film?
Extremely unimportant. It was very ancillary, and we didn't even think about it. It was an afterthought, to be honest. I mean,
music.
I think Crystal, Brandon, we basically were just like, well, I hope we can license some songs, like.
Hopefully Snoopy can give us some songs or something.
Yeah, hopefully there's someone out there. No, I think, listen, I love music. I've loved this since I was a kid, and I think part of the fun of setting a film within the world of music is music. And so the ability to, every song in the film outside of 2 tracks were all original songs that were done for this film. There's 2 lyrical songs that we licensed, but otherwise the EDM tracks, the score, everything else was completely original to the film. And we felt that was an important thing from the beginning. When one of the initial conversations I had with Brandon and Crystal about the film was when they came to me with the idea of doing a film together. It was like, they said, we'd love it to have a musical component. Like, that was part of the pitch to me, which was before I even started to write a script, was like knowing going in they wanted a musical element to it. And so I think, they were on the same page in sense of like, that's part of the experience. The music is an experience in itself. And if we don't sell that and we don't do it right, then the movie doesn't work. So there was a lot of foresight into that conversation and to get to where we are now with the music.
And we said add to what whatever speaks to you, long as it was a.
Jacob is so smart, though. I really think he's he's in my top 3 smartest human beings and most interesting.
Jacob,
I've ever met.
It's my turn for this. Yes. I can't wait. We've done the Elizabeth Posey show. Now it's gonna be mine. We'll circle back to John and Kevin here. Like we'll find a way to bring you guys back. John, I love that watch you're wearing that I see. It's a great watch.
It's a beautiful
watch. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dick Tracy.
So
right into it.
So I am, when times are normal, I've been spending the last 4 or 5 years in Ibiza in Spain every year. And growing up, I love music, but I love pop culture. I love top 40. I love indie rock. I was born and raised in Southern California. So I was raised listening to No Doubt and the Cranberries, just, like a whole different thing. So I didn't personally grow up listening to EDM dance music. And when I was spending my summers in Ibiza, and I was seeing like this whole like cluster of people that were really moved by. I was talking to Brandon about it and saying like, wow, like, okay, this is a real thing. Like, people are not going to Coachella or these festivals all over the world for no reason. We need to research and kind of dive into that. And I was really fascinated by it. Because I was the fish out of water, so to speak. And when I came back and I talked to Brandon and Jacob, I just loved like the beats per minute and what, these songs really gravitate towards people. They like to lose themselves and feel something. I just thought like, hey, that's something that I'm really interested in learning more about.
Yeah, so we had a couple of different genres of music, and then Jacob went off and figured out which one we were gonna like work best with the tone of the script and everything. And we walked to Trader Joe's and figured it all out. And we were like, yeah, and then we were coming up with ideas, like hey, I got an idea. I got my friend Eva Shaw. What's up, Eva? And she has a label, Mad Fatty, and her partner, Showtech or Wouter. And they were like, people quickly came on. She was an actress before and ended up modeling and DJing. And then, so I've known her for quite a while from New York. And so we were like, okay, cool. We brought her in and she helped. So we had the authenticity and to gather a group of musicians. Crystal was in Ibiza and talked to some of her and Jacques' friends and sort of like really just kind of made it up and did these custom songs with Jacob. His DJ Johnny Gleason, he was like playing all over the place. I mean, he ended up being DJ Dreamcatcher Dylan's character.
Music
wise, so like his actual character's music, and they were doing a couple custom songs. If you want to tell them a little bit more about that, Jacob.
They did some custom songs for us. They were really good. They were very EDM heavy, and no, it's interesting to talk about all of the, you just listen to Brandon talk about all this work that went into actually just getting the people on board, and it was before there was a movie, and so then it becomes about, once there is a movie, you have to kind of work backwards and say, like, here's the scene. Now we need to write music around that. And with EDM, it's actually, I think, kind of challenging, because when we're shooting, we're blasting these songs on set that are not the songs that we're going to put in the film. And so, when we're getting into post and it's like the artist can hear these temp tracks and obviously temp tracks can be daunting because you don't want to get tied to like, well, it has to sound exactly like this song or the scene doesn't work. And we had all these incredible artists that Brandon and Crystal had lined up through their connections. And so it was really an exploratory thing to say, like, here's the scene, here's what we kind of shot, this is the sound that it kind of sounded like, but really go figure out what the best version of this is.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the exciting part about the discovery of what the final songs ended up being, was not feeling so tethered to something so concrete.
I got a question. What were some other like musical like genres you were thinking about with the movie, other than EDM? Was there anything else you were kind of thinking of doing, or direction of the film to go in?
Personally, no. When Brandon and Crystal first brought it to me, their idea that had been kicked around prior to my hiring was actually in the world of hip hop. It was kind of like a Post Malone type character who was in the desert, and it was more leaning into like the Coachella culture of these desert shows, these desert festivals, and some people who got involved through there. And I didn't think it was not it's not about the interest level, and where it was more about my own sensibilities, and I just didn't feel like I knew enough about that genre of music, or that genre, or that headspace of music to really step in and tell that story. And also, when I was thinking about it, EDM solved a lot of problems for us because it's a masked character. There's no questions asked. There's no reason to explain to the audience why a character would be wearing a mask. You've got Marshmello, you've got Daft Punk, you've got Deadmau5, like all of these artists who are renowned for their facade. Not necessarily, their music is great, but they're known more by their personality, by their mask, by their costume. And so it kind of became a very simple, process for me, where I was like, if we set it in EDM, like our masked character is a DJ, and then that mask is repeatable. Anybody could wear that mask, and then you're Marshmello. Now you're Deadmau5. Now you're Dreamcatcher. So, it was kind of a very fluid process to just say, like, we don't have to spend 30 minutes of screen time explaining the mythos of the iconography of the character. We can just slap a mask on a DJ, and it's like, well, I buy it. I've seen it, and then if somebody else were to put on a mask and start killing people aren't asking questions about where or why they have that mask. It's like, that mask is a DJ's mask, and that DJ is well known. And so it would be no different than if somebody slapped on the Deadmau5 helmet and started murdering people. People would be like, okay, that makes sense. Like, he wears that mask, and whoever is going to try to copy that, like, I buy it. So, it was a lot of very organic things that helped the narrative without presenting more questions, which is always great.
Now, how did you come up with the design of the mask? Because to me, it looks like a variation on the plague mask from back in the day.
That's exactly what it is, Kevin. Thanks for spoiling everything. Thanks for, no, I'm kidding. There was a couple things. When Brandon and Chris were talking about the design, and I brought in an old colleague of mine from Marvel Studios. His name's Josh Herman. He's a very, very talented artist. Designed many of the Iron Man suits, the Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy, and just understands practicality as much as he understands design. And so we were talking about it, and I was like, the design needs to feel distinct, but it also can't be forthcomingly scary, because it also has to be viable that whoever is not the killer could put on this mask and spin music, and it's like, this isn't terrifying at all. But if you put it in the right lighting and you in the right angles, it could be kind of haunting. And so it's trying to marry the idea of, it doesn't need to be absolutely terrifying, but it has to feel modern, it has to feel chic, and in the right lighting, it has to feel scary. And so I was really inspired by, Josh started doing all these early sketches, these 2D sketches, because we were just trying to understand the actual design language and the exaggeration of the human face, and then blending in the elements of a barn owl, where they kind of have these large vacant eyes. And then we, use the weaving of an actual Dreamcatcher to kind of inlay into the mask and make the eyepiece the center of the Dreamcatcher, which in folklore is actually, kind of like this portal. This idea of the center of a Dreamcatcher is essentially this portal into the other side. And if the eyepiece is that portal and there is a big black void where the soul would be, it just adds another element to this character. It's all the weaving is intertwined around this giant vacant black hole. And secondarily, I was also really inspired by Brian De Palma's Phantom of the Paradise, which is an old 70s film that deals with Faust, that deals with music, which has a really cool masked character, kind of like Phantom of the Opera. So yeah, I was just trying to marry all these different elements into one design that really made sense.
Crystal and Brandon, what attracted you to this film? What was it about this that said, I wanna do this?
Well, we have this thing where we're not twins, but we practically are. We ask our mom all the time, are you sure you didn't mess up? Because she probably did. And one of the things that we always say is,
if it gives us goosebumps, then we're on our way to making something happen. And in this case, we knew Jacob for 6 years, I think. Yeah. So we have another project with him. And we were used to developing with him. So we sort of like these John Hughes movies from the 90s, Scream, which sort of Wes and Kevin came in and sort of said, hey, you can make a ensemble slasher film and it can still be funny. No one's doing it. Here you go. And then it turned into more, and the rest is history. And so Crystal and I just thought, well, it didn't work. That first film with us, we developed it. He did, an amazing development job, and it just didn't come to fruition. The timing wasn't right, and so we had that working relationship with him and knew the process. So we had the opportunity. I said, hey, let's call Jacob and see if he's available to do something. We have some certain things and areas and points that we're trying to hit, and see if he has anything. And so one thing led to another, and that's with the conversation earlier, is where we just wanted an element of music, and we wanted young adult, and we had these certain vision and marks that we were trying to hit from a visual and an audio standpoint.
Jacob, how do you approach a film like this, slasher ensemble?
It's honestly about who you surround yourself with, to be perfectly honest. And that's, I think, from any film in any budget and any genre, it's all about who you fill, those roles around you. And if you fill it with competent, passionate, excited people, then the movie is really going to come together in the best possible way. Because the thing is, and I'm a big storyboarder. I like to be as prepared as possible. And I know Brandon and Crystal are also very diligent in terms of just wanting to make sure that things are, the best possible setup. So, we're all set up for success. Mm-hmm. But the thing about filmmaking is it can get very grueling, it can get very exhaustive, and so the more you can surround yourself both on the talent side and behind the camera with people who are passionate and smart and amazing at what they do, but are not solely defined by their craft. There's still a real level of humanity. That's, to me, the best setup. Like that's how I do approach it, because it's like when you have that backing, even on your worst days, you're not failing. Even on those days, you're still finding a way to come through. And with genre films, I think you have to be like very careful, because you've got heavy makeup days, you've got stunt days, you've got these big set pieces to do, and you have to kind of do them right, and you have to make sure that everybody feels excited. And we're doing night shoots. I mean, like 9/10 of this film takes place at night, so it's like getting the actors to make sure that they're not too exhausted, from doing 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. every single day, for 3 weeks straight. Like it's a real process, but making sure that everybody just feels heard and safe and excited to be there, I think, is the environment I really aim to foster, so you can execute a film with a real high ambition level. That there's going to be challenges that come up, but the more you can kind of have that foresight, and the more you can surround yourself with very people.
To add, I'll tell you a funny story. Jacob loves this one. We were supposed to start at we had the rave location. It was a 55,000 square foot location. Kevin, you asked this question earlier. Yeah, so we ended up having finding a dynamic location. Jacob knew about it. We both knew about it. And we knew that that location was going to play a major part of the script, because how are you going to put, there's this John Hughes, there's this like cool slasher movie, like there's all these deep characters, there's so much going on. And now we have to pull up the party scene. And so Jacob's like drawing all his storyboards, getting ready to start at one of the houses. And we scored, it's independent filmmaking. So we scored a deal on location. So we're like, hey, what if we can get the big giant warehouse plus the parking and everything for twice as many days? And for a director, that's like a dream. He's like, yeah, 2 more days than we can get, 1 more than he thought. So he was like a kid in a sandbox, or like, oh my gosh, like here you got it. So the only challenge is how someone had to call him and tell him, and 2, how was he going to take it and adjust his whole dynamic plan on how to execute. So we went right into the rave scene on day 1.
Trenches.
And also, this was 2 weeks out of production. We were 2 weeks away from shooting, and the idea was we were going to start in like the conversational, like regular house setting where we're just having a sit and talk on the couch, and that was going to be our first week, was going to be easing everybody in, and it was all storyboarded and ready to go. And then I get this call, and they're like, hey, by the way, we got the warehouse for double the time. The only caveat is we have to shoot this the first week, which is in 6 days. and secondarily to that was also the day where we were going to have every actor in the film. All of the, like, that was the first day the ensemble was going to have to shoot. It was like really thrusting everyone into this very heightened environment. The emotions are at 100 on our first day of shooting. And we just had to kind of roll with the punches. But it was like what Brandon was saying, was like, well, would you rather wait and get 2 less days at this location where you're going to have all these ambitious sequences happening? Or do we switch things around and you just have to storyboard a little faster and maybe plan, things a little faster? And in the end, I think it, and maybe Elizabeth could speak to this, but I do believe it maybe brought the actors closer together faster, because they were thrust into a very heightened environment quite fast from like day 1 of shooting.
It ended up working out in our favor because, and then Elizabeth, you can elaborate on this, is that you guys all got to hang out on set together and mesh well. You guys met each other before and meshed, but we were all like a united front from day 1. Like, we're going into this real big challenge, like this helter-skelter thing, like of making a movie, but we're making it like even more fun right now, and Jacob's gonna figure it out, and we got his back.
It was so it was so cute because
we're gonna party.
Yeah, we're gonna start with the party. Let's just party first.
It was so cute though, because Jacob had his storyboard all ready. He was, and he is the most professional artist ever. and he had it all laid out. And it's like, we gave him everything he wanted, but nothing at the same time, because yes, we gave him double the days, double the time, but also flip the switch. And it's just kind of like really made you have to pivot. And I think through pivoting and being on your toes, it also brought out like a new sense of creativity out of you, because you didn't have, and I think genius and magic happens sometimes when you least expect it.
You heard it here, folks, guys. I am a genius and also a magician.
Yeah, it was kind of like, we got to set and it was like, hey, welcome to set. All your friends and family are dead. Ready, set, go. Like, oh, perfect.
What do you
Great.
think, Elizabeth? How was it day one starting at the warehouse? How was it showing up starting day one on the warehouse?
It was great. It was so exciting. There was definitely an energy, and we did it a unique way with kind of like eliminated the whole trailer aspect of it, and we were all on a party bus together.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
not only was that adding to the element of feeling like, hey, you're arriving to a concert with all your best friends and family and a party bus, but when we were waiting for things to get set up or, between takes, we were all sitting together and hanging out instead of being isolated in our own separate rooms, which that happens a lot on set. They say cut, and then everybody just kind of scanters off to their own trailer, and it's like very separate. Like your personal life remains separate from what you're doing on set. So we got to have this little special place where we could all gather and get to know each other. And we really were. I mean, I've been on a lot of sets now since then, and I've enjoyed everyone in a different way, but this one was a family. And I guess they were kind of forcing us to be a family, but it worked out. It worked out. It was really unique, special experience.
Brandon and Crystal, tell us a little bit about Quarzo Studios.
Yeah, so I'm excited. This is our first film under our new banner, Quarzo Studios, and our target demographic is young adult. We're specifically focused on doing teen thrillers, dramas, horror, kind of like what we're doing here in this. We're excited to experiment with this space at this time.
What do we have going on next, Elizabeth? What's going on for you?
Well, right now I'm actually in Atlanta right now, heading back to LA Friday. But I'm shooting a show called Heels right now, which is going to be on Stars. I can't say much about who my character is or what she does, but it's going to be an excellent show. It's about WWE wrestling. Super unique script. Mike O'Malley, showrunner and writer. He's fantastic. Got to work with Pete Siegel, director. He's incredible. A lot of great actors that people are going to know and love. So it's gritty and it's fun and it's unique. So everybody tune in when it comes out, I think summertime. And then I have a movie actually coming out that I filmed, forever ago now, but it's called Gully, and it'll be finally coming out beginning of April. And that's it right now. Hopefully more soon.
Jacob, to you.
I'm going to be directing the next Avengers film. I don't know if it's you've. I'm just kidding. Could you imagine? You heard it here first. You heard it here first, guys. Yeah, so casual about it. Yeah. Even Elizabeth was like, "Wait, what's going on?"
I was like,
no.
whoa, wait,
Yeah.
you're on our show?
Wait, nobody's heard about this.
Yeah, it's this was a big exclusive for you guys. No, it's I spent a lot of last year trying to get a lot of irons and a lot of fires, because it was a very tumultuous year for everybody. But I spent a lot of time writing and really focusing on what's next, and have a project with Brandon and Crystal that we've been developing for 6 years now, that might be finally seeing the light of day, which is really exciting. And then a couple other things that can't really talk about right now, much like Elizabeth when you have the NDAs in front of you, but it is not anything related to Avengers. So let me just clear the air there, that there is no affiliation there for anybody listening. But yeah, it's listen, it's such a gift when you meet people like Brandon, Crystal, Elizabeth, people that you really just jive with and creatively get. And if I can continue to make movies with these individuals for the rest of my life, I would be a lucky man.
Aw,
Chris-
Jacob.
Brandon, what do you guys?
Well, Brandon will go first on this one.
What's next for me? Right now, I'm not doing anything. I'm just kind of hanging out, enjoying Dreamcatcher came out on Friday, so I've just been hanging out and kind of just enjoying the moment. But as far as projects, is that what you're asking?
Yes,
We have a couple. What are you doing next, Kevin? How about you, John?
Nothing.
Bed.
Go to bed.
Yeah. I walked around my coffee table 5 times.
Yeah, I'm gonna
This
go to
is an
the gym
exciting-
in the morning. That's about it.
This is an exciting time. This is a very exciting time for, I think, everybody. And I always tell Jacob and Elizabeth when I chat with them that it's really cool because, you know, last year with the pandemic happening, it really sucked the air out of everybody. And it really kind of was a beautiful thing if you want to look at the silver lining, the fact that it really kind of brought us back to the simplicity of everything and living life and whatnot. And so here we are, and we're so grateful that our movie finally came out after getting pushed back a few times. And so here we are, and how many people get to release a movie currently? I mean, luckily the theaters are starting to open up, but here we are, and it's hard not to just be grateful for the times where our movie is getting a lot of eyeballs, it's getting a lot of attention. And I think through this, actors like Elizabeth, our writer director like Jacob, it's going to be a launching pad. It's going to be a time where if it was regular time, we'd probably be getting flooded against huge, massive studio movies. And so I think wow, okay, instead of looking at everything like life is happening to us, it's actually happening for us. So to answer your question, I'm going to flip a coin because I'd like to see Dreamcatcher, the world of that, kind of go on and see where it can go with that. At the same time, our college murder mystery that we've been developing with Jacob, like he said, since 2013, that could be new energy and we can breathe new life into a world. So I think we'll have to just flip a coin in a couple of weeks and see where we go next.
I was going to ask you, when is the sequel coming out? Because I'm just saying.
Yeah, the way it ended, I was like, we could go a long way with this.
I just want to say, in real life, I am also a DJ. So,
Yes.
I just throwing it out there.
Kevin, come on in. You're in the next film. Kevin's the
Yes.
star.
Kevin is the lead.
Kevin and
I don't want to
John.
make this all about me, but
Yeah. Well, now it's your turn. We've kind of rotated around. Now it's time to highlight Kevin.
Yes.
Please send us your demo tracks or your completed tracks so we can find a place to stick them in. And you'll see the casting notice, in the next couple weeks. It's good to go when Crystal's done flipping her coins.
Get it on the books, y'all. Get it
And
on the
Kevin, John, who did you guys guess wrong, guess right? We wanted this whole murder mystery,
Spoiler alert, Brandon. People listening might not have seen the movie yet.
well, I was going to try and be vague.
Oh, okay. We like vague.
Vague is good.
I'm trying to think because it's one of those I just go through the friggin' Rolodex it's got to be that. No, and it's funny because there are times and this is where Scream worked into my mind because I was like, well, I think it might be this person, but while this murder is going on, this person is over here, so it can't be them. One of the great aspects of this film is trying to figure that out. Is trying to figure who it is. And yeah, I got it wrong a whole bunch of times. You did throw us off, so that was pretty cool.
I was also thrown off a little bit. I really thought it was somebody, then it wasn't. Then I thought it was somebody. Then I'm like, oh, it's him again. And then it was once again. I was totally thrown off and totally I don't want to say amazed, but amazed where it actually led to. And I was like, oh. I was like, wow. I was like, yeah, that's kind of messed up. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, whoa. That's the way I felt about it at the end. I was like, oh. And as what Kevin said, I was like, you could do something else with this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think
this could go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And what's kind of fun about what you said, Kevin, with Scream is the thing that I love about Scream, and this is being also very vague, is they really tell you from the beginning what it is. Like if you rewatch that movie,
Oh, it's 100%.
It's like they basically just hold up a sign and say, this is the killer and this is what's going on from like 30 minutes into the film. And it really isn't until you've seen it and you go back and you're like, man, they really did just tell me what it is. And I didn't even think to be like, yeah, okay, thank you. And I think that's kind of the fun of a story like this, where you have that opportunity because the audience is trying to be smarter than you, where they're just trying to be like, well, they're going to do this because this is the easiest way to do it, you know? And so I think those kind of just subverting those expectations is a fun exploration to have in genre filmmaking in general.
Absolutely.
Is there any last words about Dreamcatcher that you guys want to leave us with?
Well, I've about prattled on here for 45 minutes. So I think I've said everything under the sun. So I'm going to leave it to the other guys.
Elizabeth, what do you think?
It was a labor of love, and it was an awesome opportunity to get to have because, you know, they really took a chance on hiring me for this job because I had a limited resume at that time, and it has kicked off a lot of things for me. So not only was it an amazing project to be a part of because of all the friends that I made, but I'm so grateful for them taking a chance on somebody who didn't maybe have 100 long list of things they had already done and trusted me with the character. So thank you for that. I love you guys, and tell your friends. Tell all your friends.
Yes, I mean it's
Tell
out.
your
Tell your
friends.
friends.
Tell your friends.
If you haven't seen this film, go see it. I love how you said labor of love because that's what it definitely is, and we hope that it creates conversation, difficult conversation. Not your stereotype. I hope you guys have fun. Crank up the music because, as Brandon always says, it's audio and visual experience. And definitely have these conversations. You know, it's exciting times. It's 2021. People are speaking up now, and I think it's the most wonderful thing that probably should have happened a long time ago. And the fact that here we are, I think that's the big takeaway from all of this.
Yeah, movies bring people together.
Definitely.
In many ways. Come check out our movie, please.
Well, John and I saw it. We absolutely loved it, and we recommend anybody, you know, if you have the chance to get to go see it, you know, go and watch it. It was awesome. And we've been doing movie reviews for the past month. So this is I guess this is our last one, our last movie review for a while.
I think so.
Save best for last.
I think it is.
And
Yes, definitely the best for last, Elizabeth.
this was great. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys for coming on the show, giving us your time. It was awesome. Once again, I want to thank Elizabeth Posey, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Awesome.
This is great.
Crystal and Brandon Veda, ladies and gentlemen, give it up. And last but not least, Jacob Johnston, writer director. Very good.
Thank you so much. This was a blast.
And to you, John and Kevin, thank you guys so much.
Yes.
Amazing hosts.
Yes, you were.
Yes, you guys are amazing. Your energy, your smiles are infectious. Thank you so much for taking the
Thank you.
time to
We had-
love and support Dreamcatcher.
Tonight.
So excited. Spread the love, spread the word. Dreamcatcher out now on video on demand. So check your local listings. Boom. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
John, you got anything else you want to say?
Hey, have fun, everybody.
Yeah.
Have fun.
John's all about
We're
fun.
having fun. You guys
Thanks.
have
All
fun.
right.
Have fun.
Have fun, guys. Have fun.
You've been listening to John and Kevin's Big Stupid Podcast, presented in part by Anchor. Everything you need to make a podcast all in one place for free. Check out Anchor.fm today. Promotional considerations provided by Powerbomb. The show's theme, High Octane, is provided by Ben Sound, providing royalty-free music for your next project. Visit www.bensound.com for more. Guests of the Big Stupid Podcast receive no compensation for their time, their opinions, nor their half-baked theories. To be part of the show, email John and Kevin at bigstupidpodcast@gmail.com or call 201-338-0098 and leave a message. Participants waive all rights to anything resembling coherence and or common sense. John and Kevin's Big Stupid Podcast is a presentation of Party Boss Productions Unlimited.